You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we're back once again to kick off our broadcast week here on the Options Insider Radio Network. What better way to do that than with the bi-weekly options extravaganza known as the old Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. Glad to see so many of you are enjoying it on pretty much every platform under the sun. So you're on demand on your Apples and your Google Podcasts, even your Audibles. A lot of you on YouTube now, which, hey, however you like to consume it, we don't judge as long as you're listening out there. If you're listening on demand, make sure you keep rating and reviewing on your platform of choice to really just help the new folks continue to discover the content there. Of course, if you want to engage a little bit more, get into the live action, ask questions, join the fun chat. Then, of course, the plus is there for you if you want to go above and beyond and have all sorts of cool exclusive content, including we have an awesome pro Q&A coming up for you guys tomorrow with the creator of the Market Wizards himself, Mr. Jack Schwager. Also runs Fund Seeder now, backs a lot of smaller independent traders. So who knows? Maybe some of you can make it onto his radar. Who knows? But check it out tomorrow. If you want to check that out, you got to be on the pro side, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. And you can start asking questions yourself right now. So get on over there on the members hotline and ask those questions. And, of course, however you listen live after the fact, keep sending in those questions. We do love to hear from all of you guys and gals out there. And let's see who we're hearing from on the old program today. First, let's go out to the quiet, the sleepy, the tranquil hamlet known as St. Charles. We are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW. And he's a pretty happy guy today because, one, the markets are back in the green again after kind of being mixed. And then, B, football season has begun. So, Uncle Mike, you probably have a smile on your face today, sir. Welcome back to the show, sir.
It's the only time of the year in St. Charles where life can actually get better. What can I say? Great to be here.
Unfortunately, your beloved Bills not faring so well. Josh Allen perhaps has some intriguing elements to him. Some folks are picking him and the Bills to go all the way this year. We shall see. Perhaps they shall rebound as we keep on rolling out there to a guy who we know doesn't care about football, and we know he's not smiling because that's not his gig. He's the Rock Lobster, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI, from his dark and fortress-like compound in the land of Maine. Mr. Rock Lobster, welcome back to the program, sir.
It's good to be back, and I'm filling in for Mark, who had, I guess, as we discussed, like they had to send his kid home from school because of the Rona. So, but hopefully everything is good.
Oh, you know what? I got so into the football talk, I completely threw off the start of the show because it is Monday. And you know what that means, listeners? First show of the week, we got to kick it off in grand style. It's time for the part of the show I know all of you have been waiting for. It's the Name That 80s Wrestler via their entrance music. And this one is interesting. This one's a little bit tricky. This is a pretty popular wrestler. He's not, I wouldn't say he's not the Hogans or the Andres. He's not that pantheon, but he's right below it. I'm pretty sure he was in the Hogan's Rock and Wrestling and all that stuff. So you know this guy. Music, maybe not so much. And we have to be careful because this is one of those songs where at the beginning of it, they actually say the guy's name. So we'll have to maybe scrub a little bit past that, producers, if you could, as we play. Get ready. Can you name that 80s wrestler, listeners? All right, let's just pause it there because apparently they say it in the middle of the song too. All right, let's go around the horn. Let's start with the Unklest of Mike's. Let's start with the Rock Lobster because if he was clever, they did say it, even though I know he has no idea who this guy is. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, if you can hazard a guess, who do you think our 80s wrestler is this week, sir?
I didn't really hear, to be honest. The sound was very low. I was trying to give you a heads up in the chat. Sound was very, very low. So I don't even know if your listeners will be able to hear it. But I'm just going to guess Ric Flair, just because it sounded kind of Flairish.
Ric Flair, not a bad guess, but not correct. Mr. Uncle Mike, A, could you hear it? And B, what is your guess, sir? Did we lose Uncle Mike?
Sorry, every time I keep hitting my mute button, it's like has like the old Nintendo Turbo on it or something. I don't get it, but I will guess Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Oh, both of you. I guess maybe it was low. I don't know. Was it low for you too, Uncle Mike? Could you hear it?
Yeah, I was having a hard time hearing it.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you one more quick tilt at the windmill, really quickly, producers. If you could cue that up again for them, really quickly. This time we got to go back though. We got to scrub it because it does start with the name. So here we go. All right, 3, 2, 1. Have at it. All right, that's all you get because he says the name again right there as we cut it off. Good job, producers. You have a deft hand there today. All right, let's go back around the horn. Let's go back out to the rockingest of lobsters. Second attempt, this time more audible. Can you name that 80s wrestler, sir?
I still couldn't hear it. I'm sorry. I tried. I could not hear it. I just did not hear it.
Do you have one ear along with one eye over there? We'll have to check your settings there as we keep on.
It's well, you know, I'm still damaged from the COVID, so it's possible I got one ear that doesn't work.
That's true. You do have the funk. Let's go out to the land where there is no funk, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir. On the second tilt at the windmill, can you name that legendary 80s wrestler, sir?
It's tough. I don't think I'll go with Paul Orndorff.
Not correct. Let me give you this hint. When you were a kid and you were like, play wrestling with your brother or a friend in the basement, and you would climb up to like the top of the couch and jump off onto the other kid, you would yell this guy's name.
Jimmy Superfly
Yes,
Snuka?
It was Jimmy the Superfly Snuka. Yes, every little kid in the 80s would jump off everything they possibly could and yell Superfly and crash onto everything. He was the original kind of top rope guy. Also, apparently, if you watch the Behind or Dark Side of the Ring, a pretty horrible dude who probably murdered somebody, but we won't dwell into that. We'll just go into the 80s icon. He was right up there in the pantheon. He was kind of the one. I mean, people did top rope before him, but he kind of popularized it out there. So a tip of the cap to the probable murderer, Jimmy the Superfly Snuka, as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, listeners, as we move on past the world of Jimmy the Superfly Snuka, we are seeing another kind of day where the markets were kind of trending in kind of one direction to start the day, and then it seems like we're having a little bit of evolution out there now, because in the start of the day, we had a weird bit of mixed markets. We saw a little bit of green in the Dow, S&P kind of struggling, and the NASDAQ was actually red. Now, coming into showtime, all the major indices are in the green, if ever so slightly, NASDAQ ever so slightly up on the day. S&P up about a little over 0.1%. And Dow closing in on 0.2% to the upside. We did have VIX cash over the 20 handle earlier in the session. Not that long before showtime, it was at about 20 and a quarter. A little bit shy of the 20 handle, about 19 handle and change out there. Now it hit as high of about 21 on Friday during the kind of exacerbated sell-off after vol views, of course. VVIX is at about a 121 coming at showtime, up about 9 points from our last show on Thursday. VXX getting back some of that erosion up about 1.25 to about 26.5. That one hit a high of about 27, almost exactly on Friday as well. So we have seen some higher levels out in those products. And everyone's favorite to fade these days, let's throw UVXY into the mix as well, because why not? Is at about 23 coming into showtime. It hit a high of nearly 24, 23.86 back on Friday. And of course, vol Q, the NASDAQ vol, was at about 18.25, up about 2 points exactly from this time last week. And Uncle Mike, you didn't really get it because I had to give you a hint to get it, but you got it anyway, so we'll let you start. What is lighting up your tape on this beginning of the football season and also markets rally? And also, if you have any pleasant, non-murderous memories of Jimmy Snuka, have at it.
Just the kind when Rowdy Piper beat the living tar out of him on Piper's Pit that one time. That was quite the show when he just made fun of him, shoved bananas in them, and that was Rowdy Piper made a name for himself off of Jimmy Snuka. That's the first thing that I think about when I think about old Jimmy Snuka. But yeah, today in the markets, in looking at this, energy is up in terms of the sectors, and that's about it. That's the thing that's holding up this market at this point in time. Is we have the energy stocks. Everything else is either flat or down. We had a decent sell-off on Friday going into the weekend. No one wanted to be long going into the weekend. And what we still have not seen in any of the sell-offs over the last couple months is the second leg down. And I just got to give kudos to old Seabass in that people aren't going to do that second leg of a sell-off because they already are hedged. And that's shown with near the 20 VIX. And so we have that. The other thing that we're seeing that I'm watching, we are catching a little bit of a bid in the 10-year note. That's up very slightly on the day. But we've been around these same levels for a decent amount of time. And I sold some at the money puts, and we're still pretty much at the money from about 3 weeks ago. We've gone up a little bit. We've gone down a little bit, of course, but there's not been a ton of movement in the 10-year. So we have that going on. And the other thing is that we don't really have a lot of big earnings or a lot of big news. So we're going to see what this market's made of over the course of the next few days. And I'm personally, I took a lot of my deltas off on Friday before we went down. Don't get me wrong, it was a losing day. I'm not trying to say that for me, but I did get out with a pretty significant amount of my deltas on Friday before the sell-off, not out of any ingenious market knowledge or anything, just because of the fact that we weren't going up any higher. So I'm like, well, we got to get out of this pretty quickly. So had some concerns with that. And then now we're really going to have a hard time. Or I shouldn't say we're going to have a hard time, but if we're going to make new highs and continue this great party, which is 2021 in the S&P 500, we're going to have to get back up to this 4,500 level. And the fact that we broke the magnet, if you will, last Friday, and we went right through it for the last 2 hours of trading, that's kind of a concern. Now, the other thing is so far today, we've come up, we've come down, but we haven't really made any significant new lows. So we're just kind of puttering around right now with the S&P up 3 points. So just seems like it's an eighth grade dance to where the boys are on one side of the room, the girls are on the other side of the room, and no one wants to make a move. So we'll see if there's any courageous eighth graders that want to buy this market.
So is Uncle Mike officially on the sidelines right now? Or are you still nibbling with some deltas, or what's the status, sir?
Oh, I still have some deltas, but not a lot. I mean, I definitely cut. I was above where I normally am last week, and now I'm below where I normally am this week, if that makes any sense.
A little. It makes a little sense. We'll see if we can parse it as the show keeps on going. Let's go on out now. He's not our perma bull. He's our resident, diehard, cynical, just dark and gloomy guy known as the Rock Lobster. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir. What an intro. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir. What is lighting up your tape out there today?
Well, you know what? I don't think Well, I would say on Friday, I don't really remember if we talked about it in Vol Views or not, but it was kind of fun with Russell. Always got good ideas. But like that, the adverse ruling for Apple with Fortnite, did we discuss that at all? So I was wondering
it was kind of just breaking on the show when we just came on our radar. Yeah.
Right, and Apple has bounced a little from that. Maybe what was it, $0.50? It's 54 cents. Now, apparently, I guess I think there might just be I'm sure Apple will still get recurring revenue and all that kind of stuff, but that was sort of the first shot across the bow, I think, that day, and things kind of started to move down from there. Google seemed to have Google was down $45 that day or $50, and it's recovered 30 of it today. So I don't know what the difference what Google charges and Apple charges. But
it's the same 30%. They kind of both charge the same thing. So where there goes Apple, there goes Google eventually.
Yeah. So again, really, and it's, but I mean, you get something like that, and it definitely the QQQs are lower, but I mean, the reality is it's hard to dent this market. I thought there could be, something coming off. I just am of the mind that this is a Teflon market, and that's it. There's no really way. Another thing is, as long as the Fed is continuing to do what they do, and basically, which I think is just manipulating stock prices higher and asset prices higher by just printing and pumping and buying for whatever. And I don't know how long it's lasted, far longer than every bear in the world. And I'm not a bearish person, by the way, but I liked it better when the Fed wasn't so active. Anyway, I don't think stocks go down. I don't think stocks go down. Vol doesn't really move. And the VIX did go up, and it should have gone up on Friday because we did have a little bit. But even then, I'm trying to think, what was the net sell-off? 3 handles, maybe 30 handles for SPX on Friday. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't. It wasn't a. Let me see here. So it wasn't. I wanted to see my 1-day chart here, my 5-day chart. It was so SPX. Let's see, SPY went from 449 to 445. We didn't even get a 1% sell off. I mean, I guess from the highs of the day it was. So that was 6 handles. So okay, 1.25% maybe, barely, but we don't sell off. That's it. And Mark is right. I think there are traders. There's a lot of active hedging going on in the outer months, and just the fact that the VIX cash lifted a little bit because we're moving and the vol went up. But you're not. Apple gets a ruling like that. That's definitely not good for earnings. So what do? They can only charge 10% going forward. So we don't really know what that charge is going to be, or how that's going to work out. But but you can't dent this market. That's so I think it's good for the bulls. But we are sitting at a 20 VIX, and the market is, I would say, and I just had our vol edge class today. I do feel the rubber band is being stretched a little bit. The vol curve flattened up a lot, which is usually a sign of tension. So, TOSAW, I can't disagree with him that he's maybe backing off a little bit on the longs, not a terrible idea, because that tension's not quite out of the market yet. So we'll see. So I'm definitely, I have to say I'm not grumpy, but I would say market ambivalent at this point.
Well, let's see if the overall market is ambivalent from a volume perspective. And so far, the answer is a resounding no. They're putting up some numbers today. I think this kind of a swing in attitude out there today where we were kind of selling off, but also mixed, and now we're rallying. Oh, now NASDAQ turning dark side again. All this kind of dithering around the unch to down and up, all this kind of mixed action is clearly driving some paper out there. VIX, as we speak, already north of 500,000 contracts, 508,000 to be precise. That's a lot of VIX paper, especially considering the ADV, which has already been ticking up for a while. has ticked up to about 433,000. VIX already passed that. So there's some serious paper. I'll have to go digging a little bit later to see if I can see what is lighting up the tape out there in VIX land right now. Let's look really quickly and see if I can get it to pull up out there right now. Looks like 50,000 of the Jan 75s. That's the big trade out there today, followed by about almost 50,000, 48,000 of the SEP 20s. So that's not that much of a surprise. Those are going out in a few days. And then we've got NOV 60s, those bad boys who have been dominating, the open interest charts for a while, up there in round number 4 or 5 for a while. 41, almost 42,000 of those today. So Jan 75s and NOV 60s, listeners. Yeah, those two together, you got almost 100,000 contracts have gone up just of those two strikes today. So that accounts for a good chunk of our about 500,000 contracts. Wow. That's a market shift from what we've been seeing out there, which has been a lot of, 17 puts, 18 puts, 16 puts. Nope. 75s and 60s and going out a little bit farther. But what are your thoughts on those strikes? Are you piling into some, hopefully you're piling into better strikes if you are, or maybe verticals. You want to sell that leg, but still intriguing stuff nonetheless. SPY also putting up some numbers, closing in on 3.5 million contracts right now. That's very close to its ADV as well, which is 4.14 million out there. The S already north of 1 million contracts. That's a lot of paper. And the ADV out there has been ticking up as well, up to about almost 1.4 million contracts. So the S is getting robust. The Qs, they've been bouncing around all day. So, they're putting up some numbers. They're pretty much almost exactly at their ADV right now. Their ADV is 1.32 million. They're at 1.31 right now. And the only real lagger that isn't really past or close to its ADV right now is the small caps, at least the IWM flavor. About 403,000 contracts. The ADV is 650 out there. So small caps lagging a little bit out there. Let's go on out to the top 10 most actives. Cost you almost 240,000 contracts to break into the top 10. That looks like you got a pretty meme-heavy top 10 most actives today, listeners. Let's get at it. Number 10, 239,000. That gets you to Palantir. So still clinging to the top 10. After their last earnings announcement, Palantir has kind of been in a different mode. They're putting out some numbers from an overall options perspective as well. Then we go to number 8, which is a newcomer to the top 10. Looks like one of the latest additions to the meme squad. This is Aterian Inc., ticker symbol ATER, ATER. Looks like this is an AI platform. And yeah, looks like it's an AI platform. And yeah, they're up nearly $5 today, or 43%, trading nearly $17. Like they already hit earlier in the session, almost 1883. So that's quite the run. And if you go a little bit farther really quickly, a 52-week high for them. So I guess if I say they're a newer addition to the meme, looks like they played earlier back in February when they rallied all the way up to nearly $49. They went from $7 on November 30th of last year. By February 16th, they were trading $48.99. So they had a nice pop during meme round 1. Then they sold off pretty hard, got all the way back down to $3 again. So they gave it all back and then some, and then now have since rebounded all the way up to nearly 17. So I guess it's more of a meme 2.0 wave for ATER, but the first time that they're breaking into our top 10 most active. So we'll keep an eye on them. Number 8, going back out to uranium. In fact, looks like our chat is all fired up about uranium. Nichols wants to know if you guys are long uranium. They're chatting back and forth. Mr. Unlimited sounds like he unloaded our number 8 name here, CCJ, which is, of course, Cameco. And then he turned around and bought a bunch of Denison and others. So he's still in the uranium game. Uranium, who can argue with it? It's hot. Dare I say it? It's radioactive. Haven't heard that one before, I'm sure, listeners. 259,000 contracts for number 8, good old CCJ. Number 7, AMD. Kind of an old school name, but still fighting its way into the top 10, 273,000 contracts. Number 6, Viacom, back in our top 10, almost 300K, 297,000. And then number 6, it's good old Mo, which is the stealth old school ticker for the newfangled Altria. It's not scary. It's not Philip Morris. It's not going to come kill you. It's called Altria now. So they're nice and good for the environment. It's how much do they spend workshopping and marketing firms to come up with a name that sounded not at all like Philip Morris and sounded helpful and nice. Altria, number 5, with 346,000 contracts, off about $0.50 today. I'm not sure what's driving the paper, if they had earnings today or what it is, but Altria doing some numbers. Number 4, NVIDIA, 376,000. The chip crisis continues to plague everything from automobiles to video game consoles to computers to everything in between. NVIDIA at the center of that, number 4, 376,000 contracts. Number 3, AMC, the reigning king of the memes right now, 461,000 contracts. Number 2, Tesla. Number 1, it's the big dog. It's Apple, as Mr. Rock Lobster was talking about. Let's see what they're up to today. You know, the news was just breaking on Friday during Ball Views about the court case. You know, the initial blush was, oh, Apple lost. Apple got crushed. They're going to have to open the kimono to the App Store. People have since had time to parse the decision a little more, and it seems like Apple won on most of the counts. In fact, Epic has to go back and actually pay Apple, I think, 30% of any revenue they had for pretty much the past year, even though they've been out of the App Store for pretty much the better part of that year. So they lost a lot of the counts. What is an issue is the injunction the judge is trying to impose. Apple's got some lawyers. They can afford some lawyers, so they're probably going to fight this one. But still, this does seem like it's kind of paving the way. We have seen in other international jurisdictions, Apple starting to be a little bit more, shall we say, friendly with their App Store policies, because other international regulators have been looking a little bit askance at, you know, the big American company coming in with their App Store monopoly. So they're starting to open it up. But it seems like Apple rallying a bit today. It doesn't seem like the initial blush was this is terrible for Apple. Long term, the trend is probably not good, but in the near term, at least, it doesn't seem like it's as bad as some folks thought. So we shall see. Of course, the one weird albatross around this that's kind of hanging around Apple's neck right now is strangely enough, the only thing that seems to have any sort of bipartisan support in this deeply divided Congress that we have is going after the big tech companies. Republicans want after them. Democrats want after them for deeply different, diametrically opposed ideological reasons. But at the end of the day, they both want to get at them. So it's strange. That is the one thing we have unanimous support in our deeply divided culture right now. So that probably long-term doesn't bode well either. But in the near term, this decision is interesting. Apple putting up about almost 1 million contracts, 941,000 right now. Really quickly on the earnings front, not a ton popping off this week. We're kind of coming down to the dregs of the season. We got Oracle, though, after the bell today. So there are a few names you're waiting for, unless you're really excited about Ibex tomorrow or Mytheresa. That's the other one everyone's, or Jinko perhaps before the bell on Wednesday. If you're waiting for those, then we got you covered. But outside of that, we still have the earnings move results, and more importantly right now, coming towards the end of the season, we have the earnings season fresh and hot and updated for you folks out there right now. And as I'm looking at the numbers, last 2 weeks have been pretty good. We're seeing the first couple of weeks of green we've seen in quite a while. So week 1 was 76%, so that's obviously red. Week 2, 57%, dark red. Week 3, 67%, still pretty red. Then week 4, we start turning the worm around, get to 107%. And then week 5 at pretty much a break even of 100%, which still qualifies for green out there. So total overall, we're averaging out at about 86%, which is still, again, I have to go confirm this, but it's still one of the best, if not the best seasons we've seen from an overall vol performance perspective since the pandemic began. So is this the moment? I've been burned a few times, so has Matt, coming out and declaring this is the moment, but maybe this is certainly the most optimistic info we have leaning towards that assessment in a while. If you're wondering about Oracle's, look really quickly. Oracle, they're after the bell tomorrow, obviously ticker symbol ORCL. They're trading, coming into this report, almost $90, about $89.70. They were pricing in $4.50. In the past, they've moved $4.28. Actually, they're pricing in almost $4.60. And in the past, they've moved $4.28. So a little bit extra juice for Oracle, which, if past is prologue, should be horrible. But this maybe is the season where the worm turns. So perhaps vol buyers shall be rewarded. We shall see as we keep on rolling. It is time, listeners, to unleash the Eye of Sauron. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block. Looks like our chat is still obsessed with uranium. They're piling into DNN out there. Well, let's see what our Eye of Sauron is piling into today right now. It's like we got mostly newcomers, which is always fun, with maybe a bit of a repeat offender here at the top. This is our old friend, the rolled aluminum. This is Constellium SE, which is, of course, a global manufacturer of rolled aluminum. I just can't stop saying that. You remember, they've been on a couple of times before, and we've had a lot of fun with the rolled aluminum. Let's see what kind of fun we have today. Right now, ticker symbol, of course, CSTM, trading about 20 and a quarter, off about a dime or so today. Looks like on the year, this thing has been looking pretty good. A year ago, it was trading 865. Kind of sold off, hit its nadir a few weeks later, late September of last year, at about 7 and a quarter. And then it's pretty much been straight up from there ever since. By January 6th, was trading about $15. By March 15th, was trading nearly 17. By June 15th, it was trading almost 20, $19.99. And it bounced around the 20 level for a while. We treated a little bit down to 16.5 on July 19th. And then it's been kind of back up again ever since. It hit 21 and change back on September 3rd. So it's like it sold off a little bit in the last week, about half a buck, $0.75 or so. But right now it's hovering right around 20 and a quarter or so, almost 20.30. And again, up about 134% on the year, even if it's given off a little bit of that today. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found out here. Is it swinging for the fences, buying upside? Are we selling puts? What are we doing here? It looks like we are doing the latter, Mr. Rock Lobster. We got the AAPL 8th. So these are the weeklies expiring on the 8th. 18 puts. Remember I said we're at about 20 and a quarter, listeners. Let's go back and look really quickly and see how long. It wasn't that long ago we were below the 18 handle. July 19th, it was trading 16 and a half. It didn't break 18 again until about July 27th. So it was below 18 not too long ago. So these puts are not exactly out of the line of fire here. 5,750 of them going up for 23 cents. Pretty much a little bit. They got a little bit better than the bid. These are 20 cents at 30. So they got some price improvement nearly 6,000 times. That's not bad. These went up on the Philly when the stock was exactly where it is right now, 2027. So the stock hasn't really moved since these bad boys went up. There are earnings coming up, but they are outside the lifespan of these options. Earnings are on the 27th of October. So these folks putting this on before the announcement, which is interesting in and of itself. Mr. Rock Lobster. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering, it's nearly a 50 vol, about a 48.5 vol. Mr. Rock Lobster, this is an interesting one. Looks like kind of a quick kind of grab and go little premium harvest, but they don't want to go too far out because then they get into that earnings time frame. That complicates things. So it looks like they're coming in a quick dash. I don't think they really want to buy the stock at 18. They think they want to just harvest a good old 23 cents, nearly 6,000 times, which again, isn't exactly a premium brand new Ferrari for a significant other, but maybe you can get something decent in the used space, sir. I think the Rock Lobster is dead.
Still like, ridiculous.
You're setting a new record for mute button issues, sir.
That was TOSAW earlier, by the way. That was TOSAW. You're conflating the two of us into you're trying to push us into the same human being right there. I'm just saying. I don't know if it's just me.
You could do worse than be mind meld with Uncle Mike TOSAW, sir.
That's true. He's a fine gentleman. So, I'll tell you what, though. This is, I guess, what we would say, a reasonable, a reasonable put sale. Again, this is one of those. It's close enough to the fire on what I would say on a standard deviation point of view, right? Where, it's there. It's close. It has it could get there. The 20 straddle is only $2. So, I mean, it's again, a decent, somebody wants some juice. That's a reasonable one. I mean, I'm kind of guilty of doing this stuff myself as well, especially a stock that I have an interest in. I sold some Valley puts because I think there's going to be a huge special dividend. A slightly cavalier type.
Did you do the risk reversal or just the puts?
I just sold the puts so far, and I was waiting to see the action on it. The vol, everything's kind of still funky on that. But I'm just looking at them like, the puts are here. They're about what I sold them for. I could see doing this, but it's all kind of crapshooty based on the fact that they're going to have a divvy coming out. But the OC 15 puts are still, the 19 puts are still $2 to $2.67. So this Constellium doesn't have what I think the divvy play is in it, but it does have, again, if you're looking for yield, this is almost 10% on the strike. So, a lot of funds, they're looking for money, and if they're either going to take the stock or they're going to get their 23 cents, and that's what they do. So I don't think it's a bad strategy if you are willing to take the stock. I mean, the funds have a lot of cash. They also need, right? If their cash is not working, it has to be generating some income dollars somewhere or potentially buying some stock at cheaper prices, which is what they're in the business of doing. So not unreasonable trade as far as I can see.
Not unreasonable. Again, not going to get you that brand new Ferrari you like to get for your significant others there, Mr. Rock Lobster. But you can get, looks like maybe talking about around 130 grand. So you can probably get a nice top of the line Tesla or maybe like a base kind of Porsche. The cars no one would look askance at, I don't think. So we shall see. We'll come back to this one. Yeah, I agree. It's. I think that's probably the best definition of it, description. It's reasonable. It's a pretty reasonable. It's not so far out of the money that it's irrelevant. You can still get a little bit of juice. It's not a ton of juice, but it's also not completely in the money either. So it's interesting. I get the whiff. They want the money more than the stock, but we shall see. We'll come back to this one. Let's go on out now to some newcomers here on the Odd Block. We're going to start things off in Kirkland Lake Gold Limited, ticker symbol KL. 5 guesses what this firm does, listeners. Trading right now 42 and about a quarter, up about 1 3/4, about 4.5%. It's a good day here for Kirkland Lake Gold. Let's go back on the year. It's been a rough year, though. A year ago, 54.31. And then they sold off down to their nadir of about, looks like 31 and change back in March of this year, so earlier this year. Obviously, a lot of this tracking some of the prices of gold. Gold hit that nice 2,000 plus level, then kind of bounced off of it and hasn't really gotten back there. We'll see if some of these worries in the market and the sell-offs can change that, but we shall see. Then it rallied there from the nadir in March, got back up to about 43 3/4 in May, and it kind of sold off again to like the high 30s, and it kept bouncing from like 43 to the high 30s for the better part of pretty much all that time since, until recently again went from about 40.5 on the 10th last week, rallying all the way up to 42.25 again today. So still net down on the year about almost 25%, but it has rebounded from its low of about 31 3/4 back in March of this year. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. It's gold, so I'm going to guess it's probably on the upside because that seems to be where people like to play in the metals. And looks like that is the case. It looks pretty optimistic, too. These are the 50s, the AAPL 50s going up, paper lifting that offer. These were decently tight. These are only a nickel wide. They were 15 cents at 20. They said, we'll take 5,000 of those for 20 cents, please. And again, that's about a 40, almost a 41 vol. Let's see. The stock was pretty much right where it is right now, so it hasn't really moved too much. And we have earnings coming up, but not in this cycle. The next earnings are on November 4th. So it seems like this one also going out of its way to dodge the earnings palooza out here. So we got a little bit of a near-term swing for, I guess you can, the 50 is a pretty big move. So you can call this a swing for the fences. It's not a ton of money that they're shelling out, but still. What's 100 grand between friends, right? It's not nothing. But still, 20 cents can add up if you do it 5,000 times. But still, it's interesting stuff afoot. We'll keep an eye on this one. Mr. Rock Lobster, you like a bit of precious metals. What are your thoughts on some near-term swinging for the fences here and everyone's favorite Kirkland Lake Gold?
Interesting, because a lot of the guys, I got a couple of gold stock positions, which have not worked out very well, to be honest. Maybe I should ask TOSAW about my gold investing, but I tend to be a little too giddy with the gold, but my time horizon is forever, so I guess but it doesn't mean you should be stupid about it. But this one is okay. If you're looking at gold, like what's going to give something like, a gold miner like this a 20% pop in the stock price? This one kind of defies imagination. Actually,
one would have to assume a commensurate move in gold prices.
Yeah. By the way, which would make quite honestly, might make my year. I'll just be done for the year. I'm not expecting a 20% pop in gold prices, but hey. Okay, I would take it. I'm not going to complain about it. But we haven't seen 50 since the beginning of the year, basically. So I don't know what drives gold to that price, or for that matter, what drives the stock to that price. So Again, this is a name I am not familiar with in the slightest. Maybe it's a takeover candidate. I can't really tell. I'm not getting any good data about it, but I'm just going to say from a bridge too far point of view, it does kind of feel like that. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but man, it is a long way away.
That is a long way to go. A lot has to happen in gold to make these crappy 20-cent calls look better. I don't know. We shall see. Let's see. What do we have up here? Oh, another newcomer to the odd block, which is always fun, listeners. This is Ovintiv. This is formerly Encana Corporation. This is another hydrocarbon exploration company out of everyone's favorite Denver. Let's see, $30, pretty much, actually good day today, up about nearly $2, about 1 3/4 or 6.25% out there today. Ticker symbol OVV, by the way, listen. Let's go back on the year, see what's up with this name. Let's see, a year ago, this thing was trading nearly $9, $8.96. So you could have bought all you wanted for nearly a fourth of the price it is now. Then it had a nice rally all the way up by March, was trading close to where it is right now, about $28. And then it sold off down to about $21.80 in April. Then it rebounded again by June, into the June-July timeframe, right around our favorite date, June 8th, and hovering there through most of July. Got up to about 33.5. So that's kind of the high of the year, actually. And then it has, like a lot of the names, hit its high in that time frame and hasn't really regained it. Sold off pretty aggressively, got down to about less than $25 by July 19th. By August 19th, a month later, had sold off even more, sold off down to about $22.5. So it had tried to rally, but it failed. And then it began its rally from there, lows in the August 19th, and it started rallying again up to about 28 and change last week, and this week getting another leg, another tailwind all the way up to a little bit north of $30, but still below its 52-week high of about 33.5. So what do we have out here right now? Oh, we have AAPL lighting it up, listeners. Now, the caveat is I saw this go up, and it's marked as XDiv. So usually when I see that, I'm like, okay, let's just disregard that paper because it's some sort of funky div play. But then I looked at what it was, and it was the AAPL. So the stock is $30. If you know anything about div plays, out of the money call ain't going to do it for you. If you're doing a div play out of the money, you hit me up. You're doing it wrong. And then also, the OI on this strike is only 169 contracts. So if they are, for some reason, trying to squeeze a div play through on this out-of-the-money strike, you have not much chance. Only 169 contracts. So let's see what did go up out here. It was 3,000 of the AAPL. So pretty optimistic for a pretty aggressive 54 cents. That's pretty much lifting the offer. Also, if you're wondering, that's a 54 vol. So 54 cents and a 54 vol. There are earnings, and looks like they are beyond this cycle because they're on October 27th. So that's a fair amount of juice. So it's a $4 out-of-the-money call, trading a 54 vol. Is not even through earnings. Man, that's optimistic, shall we say. Mr. Rock Lobster, what are your thoughts on this out-of-the-money call print, a name that is going XDiv soon, but also needs a heck of a move for these calls to make some sense, sir?
I don't know if this headline was real or not, but I saw that the state of Illinois is going to do away with refineries and all carbon emitting industries or something like that by 2040. I saw that coming. I go, like, is that true?
So they're going to ban them within the state? Is that what that means?
I guess so. Like, they're not going to have refineries there. I don't know what. But every time those articles and those headlines come out, like, the price of all of these stocks go up. Like,
are you reading Zero Hedge again? Is that what you're doing?
You know what? I'm just reading the ticker coming off IB and coming off all these platforms, like, because I don't look at CNBC or any of that stuff during the day. I don't like the nonsense cloud out of it. I'm mostly just a price and vol guy. I'm like, oh, okay, stock's doing that. What's the deal? So this one, actually, I own some of this because I own some of it in Canada when I think they did a reverse split, actually. So I don't own reverse splits, but when I think I bought a lot of it, it wasn't very much money. I think it was like $2 or $3 a share or something way back when. But again, weird one. Definitely not what I would call a div play call purchase. And then I broke down the volume. It was mostly small paper. So maybe buy one of those services that says, hey, buy these calls because they're inexpensive. But now here's one though that I think you might surprise me. So if the earnings are after, we don't quite know when the earnings are, but what would you say the 30 straddle is in October? Just a guess, Mr. Longo.
Well, if these 34 calls are 54 cents, then we got to be pretty juicy. I'm gonna guess like $3.
Yeah, like it's $4.
Oh, I was underselling it.
Yeah, and these calls are now almost 70 cents.
Yeah,
So,
there's a lot of freaking juice in this name. Yeah.
So very odd. So, if you're a buy rider type or something
dare
like
I say it, I might want to go the other way and sell these calls. That's a juicy bit of
the yield
change.
is pretty good here. And the stock, the stock price again is, it's up there. Maybe, it's had a pretty solid rally, $8 in the last month and a half, something like that. So, it really, this has the whiff of like maybe a potential takeover target. I think they have, I can't remember why I bought it. It was so long ago. It's why, because it's gas. So, somebody looking to scoop up some cheap gas assets. Maybe this is a play. So, at one point, like it got very, very inexpensive. So anyway, for listeners that are interested, it's a potential one. But again, very like expensive vol and very aggressive option buy.
Yeah,
so,
this has buy right written all over. I would much rather do it the other way. So we'll keep an eye on this one, listeners. Our audience agrees. The chat saying, yeah, the people who did the OVV and the KL trade, they should just given them their money because they could spend it better in the chat. There could be something to that. As we keep on rolling, it is Monday. It is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the block of strategery, the time of the show where we unleash Uncle Mike. We try to keep him bottled up the rest of the time because he's so much bubbling energy, listeners. But now we take the cork off. We unleash him. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what do you have in store for us on this Uncle Mike kind of day, but also a day when most of your deltas are off the table? So I don't know how to feel about you as my resident permabull anymore, sir.
I don't know. So now today what I want to just talk about is just being patient with an entry point. So at this point in time, I can't get too much into detail as to what I'm doing, but I did take a pretty decent chunk of deltas off the table on Friday. And so now I want to kind of pick my entry point. Now, whether I want to ride momentum higher or wait for more of a dip, that's kind of what I'm going through right now. But I am just full disclosure, I'm typically, unless the market's negative on the year, I'm typically always have some deltas on the table in some way, shape, or form. Because after all, I am the resident permabull. I have a reputation to uphold. But there will be times where I will be flat too as well. But anyway, what I want to talk about today is just the importance of waiting for your right entry point. And the thing I want to emphasize with this is that you're never going to buy the exact bottom and you're never going to sell the exact top. I shouldn't say never because I understand the fact that it has been done and I get it, but you have to have the mentality that you're never going to do that. Because if you're mad at yourself for getting in a point too early or a point too late or something along those lines, then it's just not going to be a very mentally stable life for you as a trader, quite frankly. So what I want to go through with today is just the importance of confirming what you need until you actually get into something. So let's say, for example, that you want to buy XYZ stock is at 42 and you want to buy it at 40. Goes down to 40. I personally don't buy it at 40. I wait till it bounces off of 40 and gets to maybe $40.20 or $40.45 or something like that. And the reason that I do that is because I want some type of confirmation. So let's say that I just put a limit order out there to buy the stock at 40, and if it goes to 40, I want to buy it. Typically, that's not the way with which I do it. And the reason is because if you're not, number one, if you're not watching it, then we could get into some massive sell-off or some type of bad event that makes this stock just plummet. And you're buying it at 40, but then all of a sudden it's at 37. That's one of the main reasons that I like to have a little bit more of a confirmation before I get in. Now, let's say that you want to buy continuation, and let's say that you have XYZ stock, it's at 44, but then if it goes to 45, that's your signal that it is broken out, it's done this, that, or the other, and that's when you want to get actually into it. Then I would say I usually wouldn't want to buy it at 45 if that's my signal number. I would want to buy it when the market closes above 45. Meaning, let's say the stock closes at $45.31. Then maybe a minute before the close that day, before it actually closes at that level, at that point I would buy it. So with that being said, I know I kind of oversimplified this by relating this to stocks, but I want to emphasize the importance of waiting for some type of confirmation before you actually get into a trade. This can be applied to stocks, it can be applied to options, it can be applied to trading volatility, futures, you name it. Understand that you are never going to buy the exact bottom or sell the exact top. Not going to happen. And if you do, be fortunate or be happy, because it's something that definitely it's not a typical thing. Get confirmation before you get in. To me personally, it's worth giving up a few pennies if you can get that confirmation, so that way you're not catching a falling knife. That is all I have for today. Happy Monday, everybody.
As we keep on rolling to our final segment, it is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block. I should mention quickly, we got a new question of the week, just went live right before showtime. Just asking you guys, trying to get reductive in your trading. We always talk about the Greeks, and we all know you should use them all, but in practice, some of you tend to focus on one over the others. So I thought we'd ask you that. Quite simply, which Greek do you feel you use the most in your options trading? People are already hot and heavy with their different ideas and topics and ways you should use the Greeks in there. So get over there at options, make your voice heard. It should be pinned there on the Twitter. If not, just scroll down a little bit. You'll find it in there. We tweet it usually throughout the week as well. You'll have till the end of the week. And right now, we gave you obviously 4 choices: Delta, Gamma, Theta, Vega. Delta is kind of running away with it right now, but it's very early blush. Just went live before showtime. 55% of you loving Veda, easy for me to say. 55% of you loving Delta, and then Veda, aka Theta and Vega, are tied at number 2 with 20% each. I had a feeling Gamma would be lurking in the rear view mirror, and it is only 5%. But a bunch of you are chiming in with different thoughts. By the way, we said no, don't write in row. We're not accepting any row write-ins. Get on over there at options. Make your voice heard. This should be an interesting one. See how it plays out. As we keep on rolling, let's go back around the horn. Mr. Rock Lobster, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week until we can gather here together on Thursday?
Well, I'm looking at this market, and is today, what is it? I'm not Alicia's our official candlestick person, but it feels like a doji day. Like it's moving, but it's not going anywhere. So, and I think we're about to go green. VIX on the day, which I don't think is very bullish. So I would say I'm just looking to see, if this sell-off is real or not. And it's starting to feel like it might be. The market was trying to decide, a little bit of a dog cage match, but now I don't know. So I think VIX goes green today and it closes up. I don't think that's very good going forward, especially for this week.
And let's go out to our resident Perma Bull, who has now reiterated multiple times he has no deltas left on the table. In fact, he is net aggressively short. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week?
Now, normally I'd be mad at you for saying such a thing, Mark, but I just can't get over the anger that I feel of the fact that I can't pick Roe for this week's question of the week. I am livid.
The Roe contingent.
Pound Mark with requests and emails and flood his inbox demanding that Roe get its voice heard.
I refuse to acknowledge Roe.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. That's so upsetting. But anyway, with this week, what I'm looking at right now is that if we're going to have a down day like we had on Friday, we got to answer it. So it's football season, and if the other team comes out to a 14-0 lead and you don't answer it, that does not bode well for the rest of the game. So we better answer the sell-off from Friday, or the fact that we're down from 45-45, the highs of the S&P. And if we don't answer it soon in the bull camp, then it's momentum will definitely be shifting to the bear side, and we're going to have to come up with an answer for it, Bulls. Let's do this.
Wow. Uncle Mike paring back his deltas, now saying momentum could shift to the bear side. Interesting. I can't recall him saying anything like that throughout the height of the pandemic era until now, pretty much, ever since the recovery really began in earnest, listeners. So interesting stuff. Canary in the coal mine, perhaps. We shall see. Unfortunately, that music means we're done, at least for this show for today. But don't worry, if you're part of the Secret Club, you're listening live, just stay tuned. We got some fun stuff coming up. We're going to break down all the action. We had no crypto rundown last week, so we got a lot to catch up on in the world of crypto. Mr. Rock Lobster's favorite Dogecoin, and a whole bunch more out there. That's coming up in about exactly an hour with our buddy Mr. Bill Ulibarri from Senecal Capital Management. Going to be joining me to break down all things crypto, derivatives, the vol, the volume, the volatility, all that good stuff. Skew and a whole bunch more. Let's go back around the horn, though, before we go. Let's start with the rockingest of lobsters. Mr. Lobster, sir, if folks want to check out some capital gains, where should they go? What should they do?
Come on over to optionfit.com and put on your capital gain hat and have a rocking good time.
You have hats now? I want a hat. I want a sweet capital gains hat.
No, we don't have any hats. I just made them.
You got me excited. You know I love hats. The Viceroy had fancy hats.
I know you do. I know you like the swag. I know you do.
All right. Well, stay tuned. Hats forthcoming. In the meantime, sign up for the newsletter. Check it out. Capital Gains in the Land of the Pit. He's far less grumpy on the newsletter, I promise you. All right, let's go around the horn. The guy who's never grumpy, except maybe if the bears take hold of this market, it's the uncleist of Mike's. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir. If folks want to hit you up, talk about maybe taking those deltas off the table. Where should they go? What should they do?
Check me out on Twitter. Follow me at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW. And you can also visit my website, stcharleswealth.com, where I am not grumpy either, even though the bears might be taking over the market. Roe is not allowed in the question of the week, and Andrew won't give me a hat. I'm not grumpy.
Check him out, see why he's not grumpy. Over there at stcharleswealth.com. Give him a follow over there on the old Twitters. He's blowing up the Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW is the place to go. We got to go. Got to see a lot of you in the Secret Club, like Frank 1209 and others are psyched for all things crypto. They want us to talk about Litecoin. Yeah, maybe that'll make it on the show. Stay tuned. Crypto Rundown in about 55 minutes now. Of course, if you're listening after the fact on the litany of devices out there on demand, just hit next. And, of course, we'll be back again later again for crypto, and then tomorrow for the mother of all Q&As with Mr. Jack Schwager himself, a.k.a. the Market Wizard creator. Should be a good time. Then, of course, back again Education Wednesday for Boot Camp and OPR, and then back again on Thursday for Episode 2 of The Option Block. We'll see you then.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/The Options Insider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.